Hello, everybody. Waiting for the others to jump online, obviously. Waiting for the stream to begin. You guys are in the same position that I am. How long, Bear? Welcome, brother man. How you doing, my friend? Yeah, dude, you're the first to the stream right now. So, when you asked me to be a contributor to your stream earlier, Bear, welcome. I failed to consider the whole aspect of late night with JapJap Bear. So, I apologize that I was like, yeah, let's do this, and then when I told you I was gonna do shit, I failed to consider that the time I guess contributed to you was late night with JapJap Bear time frame. So that's why I did not join your live stream. So how long, Bear? I apologize. That's why. Trana Bear, we're about to do the second day of Turpentine, the Terp Slurp, live again, obviously. But if I sound inebriated, that is for a very good reason. That is because I am significantly inebriated. But now that you've mentioned it, we're gonna go the Terp Slurp. Serpentine. How long, Bear? As always, you're a legend. Thank you, thank you. So as I'm doing the Terp Slurp, everyone, if you're curious as to what I'm doing right now, I'm doing the turpentine thing. I just, according to the protocol given by Jennifer Daniels, the next stage is to eat this shit. And even though I did it yesterday, it still feels weird for me. Because I know what's about to happen. I'm about to burp with, like, pine burps. It's weird. Bear Razor, Newfoundland, welcome. So as I'm taking my terp slurp for the day, what's on your guys' minds? What's going on? Have you had any fun adventures? So it's so bitter tasting. How long, Bear? Yeah, man. I started to see that yesterday because yesterday was the first time I did a terp slurp, and I had these like belches of whatever. These just belches that naturally tasted like pine. It was the first time it ever happened to me, so it was confusing as of yesterday. As of today, I'm beginning to recognize a pattern, so it's a little bit less concerning. Does anybody want to jump on the stream? Because, like, on one hand, I understand that, like, people enjoy, like, hearing me just kind of do a diatribe on bullshit. But I would much prefer that I get to talk to somebody. So does anybody want to jump on? Terp slurp. Trainer Bear! Yes! Good morning, brother. What's up, Trainer Bear? You've seen that today is day 2 of the Terp slurp.
The terp slurp, man. If you already been drinking, man, the turpentine's really does some weight on your kidneys and liver. So might want to be careful. That's all.
That would make a lot of sense because I feel significantly inebriated to the point where, like, so normally, even though I drink this volume on a regular basis, and I'm like, oh yeah, I can do a stream and like I can be a good resource for the Bears. Right now, even though I've drinking a similar volume of alcohol, I feel significantly more inebriated.
Well, it's funny because I think the final nail in the coffin for you to buy the terp was when I was talking about, like, yeah, I just feel like I need to be a lot more like cleansed before I can do it. And you're like, if that's the case, fuck it, I'm buying it. And they're just like, I'm drinking and drinking my turpentine. You're just going all the way with it.
Well, it's funny because, like, what you're describing is accurate, but as, like, just this is day 2 of the Terp slurp, and I'm already, like, losing my mind.
It does.
I'm not saying losing my mind in, like, I'm being a crazy person, but the logical consistencies that you guys appreciate within me, I no longer find as a valuable asset as of right now, because my mind is fucking gone.
Yeah, when I did it, like, dude, like I mentioned, Matthew 24 I was like, all I was thinking about was the end of the world, because I had drinking turpentine before I read Matthew 24, and it just, everything gets a little bit intense. Speaking of intense, I made a huge scene at the Apple Store today.
Ooh, tell us more.
So I walk up. I was in a mood because I called the court this morning and asked about my court date on Friday, and they said that the cops never filed a report, which most people would see as a good thing. It's like, okay, so you're not going to get in trouble. It's like, so they just wasted my whole time that day and all everything I went through, throw me in jail to not
Right?
do anything. You know, I'd rather them. It would have been more honorable if they would at least, pursued the charges. Anyway, so I did a little stream on the way to the Apple Store, and I was fired up. It was good. I'd say it was one of my better streams. It was like a little 15-minute me in the car, just like on fire. And then, so I'm walking up to the Apple Store, just like ready to go. And so they have like the dude who's pointing the gun at people's heads, and people are letting him do it, and they're like, "Oh, thank you." And I'm walking up, and I'm like, I'm gonna walk right by this guy, walk right into the store, because I knew, like, I know that they wouldn't, but he was facing the right, and I just walked straight in the store, because what I had is I bought a new laptop for my wife's birthday. I wanted to exchange it for a different color, so I just walk in, and I just walk through, and everyone in the store is like stunned to see me, like I'm a ghost. like,
Nice.
without a mask, because literally zero people have done it, because they have security. They have armed security outside the door preventing that. But the guy's back was to the door, so I just breezed right by him. Like, it wasn't even like he said stop. He didn't even see me. And so I'm just standing there, and then the black woman's like, and I'm like, hey, I got this MacBook, and I need to exchange it for a different color. She's like, sir, can we go outside? I'm like, I can't hear you. I just need to exchange this MacBook for. I was like, it was acting as if she was deaf, even though it was just that she had a mask on,
Yep.
and she would talk and say something, and I'd be like, yeah, I don't, and I'm being surrounded by all the employees at this point. There's like 5 of them all around me, and I'm like looking around. I'm like, I don't know what's going on here, guys, but I just want to exchange my MacBook for the gold one, and so, like, the manager lifted up her mask and said, "Can we go outside?" So I did, because she did that, which is hilarious. And then we go outside, and she's talking with the mask on. I'm like, I can't hear you again. Can you take the mask off? And so, anyways, long story short, she would not exchange it for me because I wouldn't put a mask on, even outside. And I was like, I went live on Instagram during that the final portion of that exchange between me and her, and then a cop came up, and cop was cool though. And then the funniest part was during if you go on my Instagram, I think it's the most recent one. It's only like a 5-minute video, but there's this woman who's like 60 years old. I'm in Walnut Creek, which is like liberal, like Berkeley kind of type, Oakland, Berkeley area. And this woman comes up, and I'm like I'm yelling, I'm making a huge scene. The cops are there, and then this woman just comes up and starts saying something, like, I don't even know what she was saying. She just started saying something, and I looked at her. I'm like, what the fuck? Stay the fuck out of this. Or I forgot what I said.
Right.
Basically, like, shut up, you stupid bitch. And then she's like, no, I agree with you. And I'm like, if you agree with me, then take that mask off your face. And I just went back. But then she started to take the mask off her face. I think it was pretty funny. So, and then I went to Target and had the same thing. It was crazy. It's like the day that I hear that I'm not gonna, have to go to court on Friday over this, then round 2 comes up. It's been kind of all quiet on the Western Front up until today, really. Bell River, did you see my video when I was at the Apple Store today? I don't know who is there. It's like, I must be like, out of it. You know how you just jump into live streams and you don't know, you hope that there's something crazy going on, but most of the time it's not, disappointing, and then you just leave right away. That's what, like, a lot of people do. For some reason, like, my streams, every once in a while, you might come in and I'm literally getting arrested, or you might pop in and I'm yelling at some old lady at the Apple store or something like. But yeah, I was telling the black lady who was not helping me. I'm like telling her she's being discriminating and all that stuff. And fun day, fun times.
Sounds exciting for sure.
Right. Well, it's like I shouldn't have to. I shouldn't be getting. It's like people are like, "Oh, you just want attention," or blah, you know. And it's like, no, I just want to be able to go into a store and not get bothered and get whatever it is
Exactly.
that I want to get. It's like, oh yeah, you just want to like stand out, or you just. And it's like, no, literally, I just want to walk in and do the same thing that everyone else is there doing without a mask on my face. That's it.
Exactly.
What do you think, Caden? You agree? So what else? Target, same thing. I walked in. There was an employee that was like, "Sir, you need to wear a mask." I'm like, "I can't." And he's like walking past me. He's like, "Oh yeah, sure you can't." And I turn around like, "The fuck did you say? Like, what kind of employee says that?" You know what I'm saying? Like, who says that? Like, you put on a mask. I can't. Oh, sure you can't. Like, really? Is that where we're at?
Well, dude, even the most like violent confrontations I've seen, it's someone that's like, "Oh, you should wear a mask." I'm like, "No, I don't need to," and then they don't follow up ever. And if they do follow up, it's never something that they can actually like do something about.
What do you mean?
So like when I walk past the Walmart employee who's like, "Oh, you should wear a mask," I'm like, "No, I'm good. I've got a medical exemption." And then if they say something beyond that, I just keep walking, and they just like stop.
Right.
And so in the most extreme cases, there's a door guard, and you just tell them no, thank you, and you keep walking, and they just drop the subject.
Right. Maybe it's a little different in California, or maybe there's something a little different about me. You know, maybe you have that military vibe, and people are just like,
Well, dude, you've got your you got to get your Ben Kenobi on, where like I'm not the droid you're looking for.
yeah, I did that successfully at the zoo. It's all about the kind of the mindset I'm in. If I'm in like a if I'm like in a pissed off mindset, then it's just people are gonna.
Well, so the key to overcoming this obstacle is when someone is at the front of a store and they're like, "Oh, blah blah blah, mask bullshit." You're like, "No, I'm good," and you just keep walking. The answer is literally that simple. Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
I'm good
And if
because
they
what are
like
they
give
gonna
you
say?
more
No, you're
bullshit,
not. You're not good. Like people won't say
well,
that.
if they give you more bullshit, then you're like, "No, I appreciate your concern, but I have a medical exemption, so please stop bothering me." And if they keep bothering you, then you show them the medical exemption card. And if they keep bothering you after that, then you have legal recourse.
How long wants me to grow a beard? Does this not count as a beard? Is this not counting as a beard?
No, you have like 5 o'clock shadow, bro.
Uh,
Like you've got stubble. You have the beginnings of a beard, but it's basic stubble.
like a long beard? Yeah.
Like your beard is half an inch in length tops.
But it's thick.
Yeah, I'm not disrespecting you for the thickness of your beard. I'm mocking you for the lack of length of your beard.
I know.
You have the thickness, which means you have no excuse for a lack of length.
Yeah, it's true. I did goatee for a long time, and I finally like got out of my comfort zone and went to this is my beard version. And then like probably by the time I get around to growing the beard full out, beards are gonna be out of style. Are beards ever gonna be out of style, Bertaria?
No, never.
They'll always be in. What's the max length? Because like I don't know if you know that Ian Smith fitness guy, the guy who has a gym who just refused to shut down for, anything, and got fined $10,000 a day. But his beard's like goes down to here, and he's got to like tie a rubber band on it. What do you think's like max beard?
There's no max length to beard. The
No,
longer your beard is, the more badass your potential is.
really? You think so? So
Well, that's like the way I said it is a very comical way of saying things. But when you consider the neural networks and biology involved, the longer one's beard is, the longer your neural networks are. Thus, you have a higher capability for like understanding things and like higher processes. And that applies not only to your beard length, but also to your hair length, which goes into the whole study with respect to Vietnam, where the U.S. Army did studies on hair length and how that had a specific output with the Indians.
I'm trying.
And so I was like, all right, cool.
I'm trying.
I've studied a bunch of these things, and so I know how these things work. So great. Now I'm learning from the studies of the military.
I'm trying to figure out how to reverse receding hairline. I've started messing around with rubbing turpentine on it. Maybe that might work.
Well, do you get haircuts on a regular basis?
I cut my own hair. I need to cut my hair again. It's been a couple of weeks, I think.
Yeah, cutting your hair on a regular basis does not help you with hair growth overall.
Interesting. Fascinating.
I'm not saying it's a one-to-one analogy, but there is a specific difference.
Bertari of the Lowlands. I don't think I've seen him too. I don't think I've seen him around. I think that he's kind of a new newcomer to the JapJap Bear stream. He said he was there when I was at the Apple store today. So,
Well, he's been there. He's been here a couple of times.
nice. So you think do you think that do you think the residual effect from the turpentine led you to being already inebriated by the time the beginning of Late Night with JapJap Bear?
No, I think that because the past couple of streams, I've decreased my level of alcohol intake. Now that, like, for tonight, I drank 12 beers before jumping on because I've been, like, decreasing my alcohol intake over the past couple of days. Now that I've increased it, my level of inebriation is significantly higher, which means that my cognitive ability is significantly lower in this stream. Just based on facts.
But you still you it's funny because when I was like something about Apple Store, you're like, oh, do tell. You still can go into your classic JapJap Bear lines, but it's just like you're a lot more inebriated saying it. You're like,
Oh, yeah.
do tell.
Just because I'm a drunken retard doesn't mean that I've lost all logos.
You still got like a default setting of entertaining JapJap Bear.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like my default setting is, all right, I've got a high level IQ and I can process things quickly, and it just so happens that tonight I've purposely poisoned myself with a very high level of alcohol, so my processing functions are a little bit lower.
Alcohol plus terp.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, like, to be fair though, tonight is night 2 of turpentine, like the terp squirt, and I haven't noticed us, like, other than me burping up like pine flavored burps, I haven't noticed a significant difference with a terp slurp. But yet again, tonight's only night 2.
Do you feel a little more energy from it?
I would be willing to argue that any lack of energy that I perceive is a failure on my own part because I'm drinking alcohol. Because according to what I've read thus far, is when most people pursue a terp slurp, they drop booze, they drop cigarettes, etc., etc., and I haven't done that yet, which would logistically and logically decrease the effects, which I would expect to see.
Decrease the effects of the turf. So, is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Yeah, turpentine. Like my body, I think is. I mean, obviously, you've been injected up with every kind of slime under the sun, so your body's pretty used to the challenges. Mine's a little more sensitive, so like the turpentine, like it gets me pretty heavy. Hits me pretty
Well,
hard.
I guess that's why I feel comfortable with like, all right, well, I guess with describing the differences with what I see now versus what I saw a week ago when I would drink on a very consistent basis with a higher volume is I see the various levels of inebriation with respect to today versus with respect to a week ago. Today, arguably, I'm much more inebriated because I haven't been drinking to the high level that I have been for over a week now.
So is 12
So my
is 12
tolerance
beers
is
like a
decreased.
normal for you that you wouldn't normally be really drunk on?
Say again?
Is 12 beers like not a high amount for you normally?
So like historically, 12 beers, like I drink 12 beers, I smoke a bunch of pot, and then I go to bed by 10 p.m., 2200. And for the past couple of nights, I have not been drinking that volume of alcohol. So for today, I picked up 12 beers. I drank those 12 beers tonight. And so I have a relatively increased level of inebriation due to alcohol. But at the same time, I also recognize like where I would be um, without this level of inebriation. And it's kind of weird to explain, to be quite honest, but like I understand where like right now I'm a little bit more drunk, and so I have to compensate my intellectual ability due to my inebriation.
So how long do you think cartel takes over California?
15 years.
And what, they're just gonna roll up in a neighborhood one at a time and just
No, it'll be very similar to the like cultural domestic changing that's been going on for the past like 6 decades. It's going to be slow, and as the um, cultural zeitgeist within the neighborhood changes, it's only like as the foreigners increase in relative population, it's only going to increase in change. And so because that increase in change has gotten to the suburbs, it's only going to continue to increase.
it seem like so you're just saying they just keep moving in to the houses and then just take over the neighborhood like by way of renting and buying.
Well, so like the pattern that you saw where the quote unquote minorities moved into the inner city and then quote unquote took over the inner cities, and then from then they began to move out from there. That general pattern you're going to see exacerbated more and more. And obviously, the initial pattern of that is focused on the inner cities. But the more the inner city locales in your local geographical areas are dominated by quote unquote minorities, that's only going to put the suburbs at a higher risk for the same sort of cultural assimilation. That's just how these things work.
So they spread out to the suburbs To do crime or to live?
Yeah. So the suburbs, like for most major cities, the the major city centers are basically war zones. And so logically, the next most vulnerable geographical area to this level of violence is the suburbs. And we're beginning to see that now. And so over the next 5 to 10 years, violence in the suburbs is only going to increase.
Huh. Where do you see violence in the suburbs?
Well, dude, look at the BLM riots.
Those are like
Look at the
all in pretty metropolitan
so
areas.
trajectory of the BLM riots.
Cities with 100,000 plus.
Well, so like with the BLM riots, first they focused on the inner city, and once the BLM riots completely destroy the inner city of whatever metropolitan area they're currently in, their next target is the suburbs of that same metro area. And that's a very common pattern that we've seen in almost every BLM riot. And it just so happens, as of right now, the suburb the suburb locations around these metropolitan BLM riots have repulsed the BLM expansion, which is good. But eventually, it's not going to be that. And the BLM riots and the Marxist communist riots are going to extend to the suburbs. I'd give it 5 to 10 years before that happens.
So then at that point, the safest place to be would be a rural area.
Exactly.
Do you think it would then spread to, how would it eventually get to the rural area?
Well, that's the beauty of it, is unless the will of the people supports the political movement, there is zero chance of the political movement expanding to the rural regions.
Well, but that's what happened in China, right? Eventually, they were able to get the rural area by convincing the like farm workers that they should own the land and that the landowner's a bad guy, and then they had.
We'll see the difference between the conversion of the Middle Kingdom to communism versus our current zeitgeist with the farmers in America and like rural people in America right now is the rural people in America right now are very familiar with the weaknesses of communism and how that's gonna fuck them. And so the people of the Middle Kingdom, they were just reeling off of the opium wars of the late 1800s. And they're like, oh, Chinese rule, great. And then they're like, oh, wait, communism, fuck. And then they were already fucked.
But somehow we went from Antifa being the threat, or we went from the cartel to Antifa, because I would think a Mexican cartel would be interested in the farmland.
Well, dude, Antifa is just the communist expansion of the cartels.
What do you mean?
So the cartels only have power over the small townships in which they can like terrify the local population to submit to their control. Because America is a different legal jurisdiction, they have to take a different mentality. And so the same people that would bend the knee to the cartels are the same people that are like, Antifa, Antifa. It's just, according to Yuri Bezmenov, those people that are like, Antifa, Antifa, those are the useful idiots. And they will be used in the coming fucking change of zeitgeist. Like, it's gonna happen. It's just like, once America falls, do you have a homestead? Do you have a backup plan? That's all it is.
But yesterday it was getting kind of dark with no roads and all that stuff. So like, um, that's when I was making a joke about needing a horse because if the roads are closed, you're going to need to go off road and like a horse or something.
Well, yeah, like in the first like couple of weeks and months, all the roads for the metro areas are going to be closed, obviously. But after that, it's a whole different ballgame.
Right.
It's like for the first 3 to 6 months, you have to worry about not dying. After that, then you growing things and you like growing where you're planted is much more significantly important.
And gasoline will be non-existent, you think?
Yeah, within like 2 or 3 years, gas will be gone.
Why? Because they just to control people. That's why. I
Well,
mean,
like to be fair, like gas being gone is not a result of the lack of controlling factors. Like the current controlling Zeitgeist is part of the control is the petrodollar. And so once the petrodollar falls, then there are going to be other power groups that use alcohol and other like power forms to power like engines and like various other like forms of energy. And so like once the petrodollar falls, yes, there's going to be a certain level of chaos, but beyond that level of initial level of chaos, there's going to be a significantly larger amount of potential energy sources available because there's not this global petrodollar that like dominates everything.
okay. Well, there always will be because the industrial militarized complex or whatever is
So think about it. If America
relies on it.
is like the big power structure and then America falls before 2040, then that's going to open up a crazy power vacuum for a bunch of independent people to do whatever the fuck they're going to do. And there's a large number of Americans that have already done all the research for power generation in a variety of ways that is not regulated by the petrodollar. And so once the American empire falls, in the like geocentric areas, those localities are going to have basically free energy. And then because energy is such a vital resource, those localities with free energy are going to have a natural predisposition or pre-advantage to the towns adjacent to them, which speaks to Vox Day's position where like they're going to be able to conquer if they want to, conquer the towns around them because they have power and the towns around them do not.
Mm. Which is my plan to carry massive amounts of ethanol.
Well, ethanol won't solve that problem, but
Why
I
not?
like your.
What do you mean ethanol won't solve the problem? You could have diesel engines everywhere.
Ethanol will only help you conquer a land that already is like energy independent.
It will what? Help you conquer?
Yep, ethanol, you're like whatever ethanol reserves you have, unless you already have a community that is energy independent, your ethanol reserves will only be useful to conquer another community which is already energy independent. And unless you do that,
Why would it help you conquer?
eventually your energy reserves will fail.
Why would it help you conquer one that's in? I mean, I would think that you were going to say if ethanol would help you conquer a community that doesn't have energy.
Well, I mean, like if you have ethanol reserves and there's another community with no ethanol reserves, obviously that would assist you in conquering that community But long term, if there is a community with like Tesla kind of energy resources, your ethanol reserves are basically worthless.
Right. Well, not necessarily, because there's still a lot of cars out there on the road that can't run on Tesla. But there's
Well, it's not about running cars, but it's about maintaining a defensive perimeter.
what? What are you doing?
If using Tesla energy, I can maintain a defensive perimeter that can keep out your cars. It doesn't matter that your cars are fucking ethanol maintained or whatever. Eventually, the ethanol reserves are going to run out, and because of the Tesla energy, my community is going to stand strong. And unless you breach my defensive perimeter, there's nothing you can do.
Oh, okay.
That's where I'm coming from.
Makes sense. So, but if the Tesla energy became standard, like AT&T phone cables, PG&E, gas and electric, and if Tesla became the new standard, then we won't have a crash. It'll just be like that's the new standard.
Well, see, if that becomes the new standard, then we have a different economic crash because of the loss of power from the energy companies. That's a whole different economic crash.
Well, AT&T is at a pretty low stock price right now. I wonder if that has something to do with that type of deal.
Possibly.
Reva pointed it out today. Well, I'm going to get going. My family's in the house, so I got to put the kids to bed and do all that good stuff. But
All right, brother, man, it's great talking to you.
Good chatting. Check out my my video on when I went into Apple. It's pretty entertaining.
Will do.
All right. Peace.
Later, brother.